Governor DeWine talking directly to Ohioans tonight as we mark 1 year since the pandemic began. What will he say? Hear his announcement live right here in about 30 minutes.
Are my parents forgotten? How will they get a vaccine?
Finding a vaccine. Healthcare workers believe it will be easier to make an appointment in the coming days. We'll explain why.
Biggest event yet. After a year of canceled fun, the Pro Football Hall of Fame is getting ready for its biggest enshrinement weekend ever. We have a first look at what to expect.
Housing boom. The pandemic has Americans on the hunt for a new home. What home buyers are looking for and what the market looks like in Ohio.
UFO sighting. Our star quarterback, Baker Mayfield, and his wife, Emily, swear they saw one last night. Our Mike Polk Jr. weighs in. What's new starts now.
And now, live from WKYC Studios, this is What's New.
And I am very much looking forward to Mike Polk's take on Baker's UFO tweet. Here we are. We're a day from Friday. We're close, and it's a busy news day here in Cleveland. We're standing by for a rare evening briefing from Governor Mike DeWine. That is expected to begin 30 minutes from now. When it happens, we'll take you there.
And that is expected to talk about the 1 year of COVID-19 in Ohio. It's hard to believe we are hitting that 1 year milestone, but there's other things that he's expected to address. When he takes the podium, we will, of course, take you there live. And with that, we say hello to you, Northeast Ohio. Thank you so much for joining us here on What's New. I'm Betsy Kling alongside Jay Crawford. And Jay, did you see the snow today?
I did. In fact, I was just talking to Matt Standridge. I said, you know, you get that momentum rolling and you almost forget that it's March. And of course, that's what it does in March. It snows. I just was thinking, and of course, it's going to be 60 in about a week or so. So I was thinking about that. And then I looked out my window this morning and I saw the flurries. It kind of sets you back a little bit, just a touch, because I know warmer temperatures are coming.
It does. So let's start with some positive news this evening. Ohio's positivity rate, hospitalizations, and cases are all down. Within the last 24 hours, 1,875 cases were reported. That's 147 fewer than yesterday. And compared to a month ago, it's down 2,200 cases.
Yeah, it's absolutely undeniable that all of our numbers are going in the right direction. And Betsy, here's the big story in today's numbers. We have stressed throughout the pandemic the most important data point to pay attention to is the positivity rate, because that, of course, tells us how the virus is spreading throughout a given population. And today's rate of 2.7% is Ohio's lowest positivity rate since September 1st. That's more than 5 months ago. Also of note, hospitalizations down another 71 patients, leaving us just over 1,000 COVID-19 hospitalized patients statewide now. And Ohio continues to vaccinate. We have now vaccinated more than 1.8 million residents with at least that first shot. That is 15.43% of our entire population.
And let's keep talking about that vaccine, because there is more news that's been coming out. As of today, more than 900,000 additional Ohioans are eligible to get their COVID vaccine. It's all part of Phase 1C and the beginning of Phase 2. Now, keep in mind, that's more people who are eligible for the appointments that are already very hard to find. And that means frustration is growing. Brandon Simmons shares their experiences when things could get better. Hi, Brandon.
Hi, Betsy. Yeah, getting through the 1A and 1B groups is taking a little longer than many of us expected, as the process is still limited by vaccine supply. But many people are still excited to find out they would be eligible beginning this week and starting today, actually. Governor DeWine says 246,000 people are in Phase 1C, including child care services and law enforcement officers. They're going to be eligible, along with 695,000 Phase 2 residents aged 60 and older. But the supply issue isn't fixed yet, and finding the vaccine, as you said, is still difficult. I spoke to people from all of those groups today, and many continue to wait as appointments aren't available, and some boards of health websites are actually down today. One local health commissioner I spoke to asked the public to stay patient, and she's optimistic that we'll get through this next phase sooner than we think.
Nobody really had a lot of notice to get their system switched in order to accommodate. So I would think by early next week, you're going to see it open up widely, and you're going to see individuals be able to get scheduled far easier next week than you are right now today.
Okay, so what can you do? For now, experts say you should register in as many places as you possibly can right now to make sure you're on the list to get notified when more doses are available. Another tip, if you're willing to make the drive, check availability in counties that are maybe a couple counties away, because you may get lucky if all of those appointments aren't taken. Now, some people have been critical of Governor DeWine's decision to open up eligibility to more people, considering many elderly people in that 1B group still haven't been vaccinated. We'll have more on that coming up at 6 o'clock on What Matters Most, Betsy.
Yeah, we know the state is working on that central database to find out where the vaccines are. So hopefully maybe he'll talk about that a little bit more coming up in his 5:30 presser. Thank you so much, Brandon. And as I mentioned, we are waiting for the governor's presser to begin. It is expected to start at 5:30. And he's going to be talking about our fight against COVID-19 here in the Buckeye State and progress toward reaching the end of the pandemic. And as we've mentioned, we will bring it to you live as soon as it begins. Jay.
All right, first up on your feed at 5 on this Thursday afternoon. Last year was a quiet one for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. As you'll remember, they had to cancel their marquee events around Enshrinement weekend. However, as Will Ewick tells us, tickets for this year's Enshrinement ceremony will go on sale tomorrow at the museum. And they are hoping that they rebound in a big way.
It is very emotional, very exciting.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame is preparing for a bounce-back year. Last March, the hall closed their doors for several months, the longest the museum has ever been dark. The Hall of Fame game postponed, Enshrinement weekend scrapped, and 2020 attendance was down by about 33%. But already this year is promising something better.
There's a lot of pent-up enthusiasm, we feel. Our numbers for January 21 and February 21 are actually ahead of where they were in 2020.
And now on the eve of Enshrinement tickets going on sale, they're pretty excited.
We're looking forward to a summer where we can safely gather together for just a palpable amount of energy and excitement around that.
The excitement extends past just events. The Hall of Fame Resort and Entertainment Company has been busy building during the pandemic. They topped off the Constellation Center for Excellence a few weeks ago, with hopes the exterior will be complete by August. The new scoreboard had the last beam placed earlier this week, and they've already begun clearing the way for retail, restaurants, a hotel, and an indoor water park, hoping to create a destination for more than just football fans.
Vision in years going forward is it being one of the premier gathering spots, not only in Northeast Ohio, but really the entire country.
Everything moving forward as they prepare to return this year and celebrate the history of football, along with the resurgence of a museum and area while making up for lost time.
Have the Steelers come into town, and have the Cowboys come into town, and you have 2 great enshrinement classes. You'll have the most living Hall of Famers coming back to Canton, probably in the history of the Hall of Fame. Greatest gathering of football is just right around the corner.
Once again, tickets for the Enshrinement ceremony go on sale tomorrow at 10 a.m. You can get them down here at the box office, or you can go online and get them. We have a link on our website at WKYC.com. Jay, as far as the Hall of Fame game, Steelers-Cowboys, I know that's a big one. It actually sold out in about 23 minutes last year around this time. They told everyone, hey, you can hold on to your tickets for next year because the 2 teams agreed to play in 2021. Most of them did, so that one is sold out.
Yeah, I have a feeling they could probably fill First Energy with that matchup. That's going to be one to watch. Well, we don't know for sure exactly where we're going to be in the fight against COVID-19 at that time. Does the Hall have multiple plans for Enshrinement weekend just in case?
Yeah, Jay, the funny thing is last year they decided to do just that. They had 5 plans for how to try to pull that off and had to scrap all of them. So this year they said, we're not going to do that. We're going to do one plan, and we'll make changes as we need to necessary as we find out the situation.
All right, well, the hope is that the numbers continue trending as they are, and this will be a full go. Will Ewick, live from the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. Will, thanks. Now, as long as we're talking about sports honors, tonight is a very big night for the Cleveland sports scene, as it's the 21st annual Greater Cleveland Sports Awards. Now, normally they have a huge gala. It attracts more than 1,000 attendees for a celebratory award-style dinner. It's quite a festive night, but obviously a huge in-person gathering, just not in the cards again this year. So instead, the folks at the commission decided to turn this thing into an hour-long television show that everyone will get to enjoy because it airs right here on Channel 3 tonight at 7 o'clock. I'm thrilled to get a chance to host the event for a second time. Jim Donovan will also be along, and you'll see some of Cleveland's biggest names in sports as well.
That is such a cool event. Well, next on your feed at 5, we're talking about the housing market. We've all spent so much time at home over the last year from work and school and, well, everything. Now people are taking advantage of the housing market, wanting to buy bigger. As millions of Americans started working from home, they realized their home wasn't working for them.
Based off of essentially not being able to leave your home, there's suddenly a realization of, well, you know, what is the utility in a home and what can I get out of it?
Living rooms and kitchens doubling as makeshift offices and classrooms has pushed families to look for something more functional.
We're going to have a migration of people out of the city who are actually going to appreciate wanting more space.
Add in historically low interest rates and you have the perfect storm for a pandemic housing boom.
That's why you're seeing a sudden move to more of a suburban environment where, quite frankly, you get more space for less dollars.
Mortgage lenders like LoanSnap focus on helping Americans improve their financial situation while buying a new home or refinancing their current one.
Our whole focus is to analyze your financial situation and do our best to improve it. Mortgage being a part of that solution, but we look at your overall financial picture.
Using sophisticated AI to analyze thousands of data points, including income, credit card debt, and house value, LoanSnap is often able to approve a mortgage in a matter of minutes. Maximizing cash-out options along with the lowest interest rates, LoanSnap saved its customers nearly $35 million last year alone.
We actually even have a rate guarantee. So even if you do get a better rate somewhere else, we'll meet or beat it.
But you have to move fast if you're considering a new home. Inventory across the country is tight. New listings often triggering bidding wars hours after hitting the market. And as soon as they hit the market, a lot of them are already under contract. Bankrate.com says as of today, current mortgage rates in Ohio are 3.2% for a 30-year fixed rate and 2.52% for a 15-year fixed rate. At this point, this is where Big Sue and Tim begin to speak up and tell me about the crazy interest rates that they paid when they bought their first house back in the 70s, 17% and whatnot. You know, it's just incredible. It definitely makes housing more affordable for more people, but the problem is how many houses are available right now. If you're looking to sell, it is your market to sell in. If you're looking to buy, get ready to pay.
Yeah, it's true. Historically low rates allow you to buy more home, but again, it's all relative.
You got to find it.
I just had a friend, I haven't heard this in Cleveland in a very long time, but I had a friend who actually got above list and almost immediately as soon as it hit the market. They're going that fast.
Yep.
Okay, next on What's New, was it a bird, was it a plane, or was it a UFO? Baker Mayfield and his wife and our good friend Emily swear they saw one in the sky last night in Texas. Mike Polk Jr. digs into this possible dazzling discovery.
It's Mike Polk, investigative reporter. This is scary.
UFO investigative reporter.
Even better. Plus, coming up, the Bachelor buzz. Longtime host Chris Harrison is apologizing following controversial remarks. We break down all the details ahead in Pop Break.
Welcome back to What's New. Betsy, I saw an interesting tweet move on my timeline last night. It was from Baker Mayfield. And in the tweet, he says he and his wife, Emily, were pretty sure that they had just spotted a UFO. They were in Texas coming home from dinner, and that's what they thought. Caught my attention. It also caught the attention of our favorite observationist here at What's New, Mike Polk.
So, as we expect, Mike attempts to interpret, and that's the words, attempts to interpret what these UFOs could mean for Baker Mayfield and his future with the Cleveland Browns.
Howdy, folks. Well, we're currently in that dreaded Cleveland sports dead zone time of year. The Browns are done playing, the Tribe isn't playing yet, and the Cavs are actually kind of a fun mess to watch some nights, but overall it's very stressful. It's not great right now. This lack of action leads to a void in our Cleveland sports small talk world, leaving us badly in need of a distraction. And who stepped up to fill that void last night? Why, Baker Mayfield, of course, who is spending at least part of his offseason encountering potential extraterrestrial life in Texas. Unlike the boring quarterbacks from other teams, as he tweeted last night, almost 100% Em and I just saw a UFO drop straight out of the sky on our way home from dinner. So what are we to make of this phenomenon? I'll admit that as a long-suffering, traumatized Browns fan, my mind still tends to gravitate towards worst-case scenarios. Like, perhaps the fact that the Browns were actually good last year has somehow interrupted the balance of the universe, and these aliens were dispatched to hunt and collect Baker so as to make the Browns bad again, thus restoring order to our galaxy and beyond. Now that might seem far-fetched, but if you'd have told me 10 years ago that the Browns would eventually find their starting quarterback only to have him swiftly abducted by aliens in Texas, I'd have been like, yeah, I could see that. And of course, it would be Baker they'd take, because that's just our luck. Notice that no aliens attempted to abduct Deshaun Kaiser or Brandon Whedon when they were at the helm of my team, because aliens are never around when you actually need them. But it's obviously presumptuous to assume that these otherworldly visitors have arrived here with ill intent. Maybe they're just trying to contact Baker because they have something important to tell him. But what could they possibly want to say? Hold on, wait a second. What's going on here? Something's taking over our signal.
Attention, Baker Mayfield. We have used our advanced alien technology to look into the future of your beautiful but troubled planet Earth and have determined the only way it can survive is for human Baker Mayfield to lead the Cleveland Browns to a Super Bowl championship. To ensure this outcome, it is imperative that Mayfield signs a reasonable 5-year contract extension that compensates him fairly but does not totally break the bank, tying up valuable salary cap space, thus hamstringing the team's ability to acquire talent in free agency. The future of Earth rests in your hands, Baker, and...
Okay, this just doesn't feel right. It's just that we haven't had a good quarterback since Night Court was still on TV, and the thought of losing you is just making me do some pretty crazy things. But, long story short, Baker, I apologize for this ruse, and I believe in you. This is Mike for 3 News, beaming back up to the mothership.
Will somebody please take Mike off the Amazon account? Because obviously, you know.
But, you know, I'm glad he ordered those masks because it made that little bit to his piece very believable. It took me a second to realize that that wasn't actually an extraterrestrial, but
that's true.
Mike Polk.
Thank goodness he unmasked, right? That guy.
Night
no
Court.
thanks. That was my favorite part.
Yeah. No, they weren't interested in Deshaun Kaiser or Brandon Whedon.
Oh, my goodness.
Even aliens knew they weren't going to work.
What is that guy going to come up with next? Certainly. You know, we need to get him back out doing something with the weather.
Here's my hope. I hope that that piece makes its way to Baker so he can at least see it and understand how important he is to the Cleveland fan base.
I'm sure it will.
I hope so.
Right? Well, let's change and head to weather now. Matt Stander's not abducted by aliens as of yet, but, you know, we're on standby just in case anything can happen at this point. So keep your eyes out, Matt. But, you know, looking ahead to the weekend, a lot of folks do have plans to try and get outside. Doesn't look like it's going to be terrible.
Yeah. No, it will have the sunshine, but it may not be as warm as you like, Betsy. Betsy, just to pause for a second, I also saw something white from the sky. Ooh. A couple hundred of those things. Oh. Snowflakes. Did you see the snowflakes earlier today, too? Jay was talking about them earlier as well.
Yes, those are definitely slightly more terrestrial than the aliens, thankfully.
A little bit more believable, I guess. But, Betsy, we've been tracking them today. That's with that cold air that has come in across northeast Ohio. I want to take you right to the weather maps. We had a cold front pass through several hours ago, and we've been dealing with some of these light lake effect snow showers. But if you look towards the north, towards the other Great Lakes, they're starting to clear out, and we'll eventually do the same thing. I think by tomorrow the sun will be back mostly with just a stray cloud here or there. But this evening, still watch for a couple snow flurries. They're starting to wind down, but we've got a particularly good band over Summit County from Akron, north and west to Cuyahoga Falls, getting some of that snow. But overall, the trend goes away, and we'll just be stuck with some of the cold temperatures. Right now we're sitting in the 20s, but it feels colder. It feels like it's the teens, and just get ready for the next couple of days. Those wind chills will stay around here. So tonight will be in the low 20s, but most likely it's going to feel like the teens. Tomorrow we'll finally get into the feel like temperatures of the 20s by the afternoon. What you basically need to know, take away for your Friday, is that we'll have the sun return, but the cold air is going to kind of keep its grip over northeast Ohio. Here's your National Zymar hour-by-hour forecast. Tonight, we dip into those 20s, but notice how the clouds start to break apart a little bit more. We may have a few closer towards the Ohio-Pennsylvania state line. Tomorrow morning, waking up, 6 o'clock, Holly's going to have your forecast. She'll be tracking some of the sunshine that we'll have, but notice the temperatures are just not able to warm up all that much thanks to that northwesterly wind. We should break above freezing briefly, but it will feel like the 20s throughout most of the day. Here's the thing you want to watch for, that next warm front. It won't arrive until early next week. You see it on the Union Home Mortgage 7-day outlook. By Monday, back to the 50s, 60s next week. So Betsy J will probably just stay in the 30s, just above freezing for tomorrow and for much of this weekend, but at least we'll have the sun. More of what's new is coming up.
Welcome back, everybody, and there is a lot happening in the entertainment world today. Here's our Kiara Cotton to break it all down in your pop break.
Bachelor host Chris Harrison is finally speaking out after stepping away from the franchise last month. Harrison was called out after defending a current contestant who had shared racist posts on social media. In an interview with Michael Strahan, Harrison took responsibility, saying he made a mistake and that he owns it. He went on to say, "I believe that mistake doesn't reflect who I am or what I stand for." As far as his role with the Bachelor franchise, Harrison says he plans to and wants to be back.
There's something inside of me that I can't turn off.
Michael B. Jordan is without remorse in the movie adaptation of Tom Clancy's 1993 novel. In the movie, Jordan plays Sergeant John Kelly, an elite Navy SEAL who uncovers an international conspiracy while seeking justice for the murder of his pregnant wife. The movie co-stars Lauren London, Jodie Turner-Smith, and Jamie Bell, as Jordan's character seeks revenge while struggling with his loyalty to his country. Without Remorse will premiere April 30th, only on Amazon Prime Video. From action hero to superheroes, Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer are a dynamic duo in the first trailer for Thunder Force. The movie tells the story of two estranged best friends who reunite in their 40s. When one of them develops a treatment to give ordinary people superpowers, they join forces to fight crime and protect their city. As it turns out, saving the city can be tricky.
You're cooking them from the inside out!
Oh, man. Thunder Force is coming to Netflix on April 9th.
Thunder Force, remember it.
And last but not least, we have good news for Drake fans. His album Certified Lover Boy may have been pushed back, but he's releasing new music tonight. Scary Hours 2 will be available on all digital platforms at midnight. Back to you guys.
All right, they say if you try to give your dog an egg, they'll take it, and they won't bite down on it because they know it's fragile. So let's try it. Ducky, come here.
All right, so let's see what Becky does with the egg. Today's Worth the Watch is all about how careful dogs can be. And Betsy, it's almost like they have this innate sense that this is something to be protected. So Becky puts it in her mouth, goes to her spot, sits down, and holds it until her owner asks for it back. And watch how gentle. This is really something.
Let me see
it. Okay, I guess I can trust you with it. And there it goes. Now, I tried this, Bets, with our two Goldens, who I think I've told you before are the biggest creatures of habit of all time.
Right.
And because we've never done this before, and they didn't recognize it, they thought it was some kind of a trick or a test. So they looked at it for a minute, and they looked at me, and they basically said, I don't even know who you are anymore. And they had no interest in the egg. So my attempt at that experiment failed miserably.
Oh my gosh, I love it. They're just kind of like, yeah, we don't trust you with this.
Whatever, Crawford.
You're the one that throws the ball and expects me to go get it and bring it back. I'm not doing it this time. I love it. Well, still ahead for us here in the next half hour of What's New. We are waiting for Governor Mike DeWine to give a rare evening press conference. He's expected to talk at 5:30. 1 year of this pandemic now. We're going to bring it to you live. We're back in just over 2 minutes.
And now, live from WKYC Studios, this is What's New.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're just about at 5:30 right now, and Governor Mike DeWine is expected to talk at any moment about the state of COVID-19 here in Ohio. We are standing by to take it live once he begins speaking. And thank you for staying with us. I'm Betsy Kling alongside Jay Crawford.
Yeah, Betsy's usually been pretty prompt at these addresses, so it won't be long at all as we're coming upon. It's just now 5:30. A few things the governor is likely to address. We're coming up on 1 year since much of the state shut down because of the pandemic, so he's likely to give a status report as we are now in through 1 year. Pressure now building to follow other states dropping restrictions across the nation. I'm told Governor DeWine is now making his way to the podium, and we take you there live.
Was in all likelihood already here. March 4th, 2020, our first full day in this fight, and none of us then fully understood the battle ahead. This has been a tough year. Many of you have lost a parent, grandparent, sibling, spouse. Some of you have even lost a child. Some of you have lost your job. Some of you have lost your business. Yet through this most difficult year, we did what Ohioans always do. We rallied together. We sacrificed. We showed the world our Ohio grit. Our communities have come together. We've done things the Ohio way. We've been careful, and we've been caring. And we've worked hard to protect the most vulnerable among us, because that is what Ohioans do. We protect each other. We take care of our own. In so many of our communities, teachers, superintendents, school staff, and families have made so many sacrifices this year to keep kids in school all year, working so very hard to keep our kids safe. They followed the best safety measures, and those measures have worked. Now, Ohio is a true leader in getting the rest of our kids back in school. We vaccinated over 200,000 educators in just 4 weeks in February. And today, nearly 95% of our children are back in school, in person, learning. We had a plan, and we carried it out. You know, we're now on the offense with this virus. We have the most efficient, effective, the most powerful weapon, and that is the vaccine. And we're implementing our Ohio plan to prioritize the deployment of this vaccine to those Ohioans most likely to die if they get the virus. Our older Ohioans, those living in our communities, and also those living in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. Ohioans with severe developmental disabilities, and Ohioans born with very serious life-threatening medical conditions such as Down syndrome, cystic fibrosis, or cerebral palsy. Our Ohio plan has made sure that from the very start, vaccines are available in every community in the state. Today, we have over 1,200 separate locations where all Ohioans can get a vaccine close to their home. Not only that, we've taken the vaccine literally to the doorsteps of people who have other barriers to accessing the vaccine. Every day, I'm so proud of the volunteers, and I'm so proud of the National Guard. Every day, our Ohio National Guard and countless other volunteers are vaccinating people at low-income senior housing locations, at churches, and at community and health centers, and so many other places. To date, we have vaccinated over 1.8 million Ohioans. Now, we've got a ways to go. And yes, we need more vaccine. But more vaccine is coming. This week, at least 450,000 doses arrived in Ohio. More vaccine than any previous week so far. We started our vaccinations in December, starting with long-term care facilities, including our nursing homes. At that time, cases in nursing homes were over 2,800 per week. Today, after those vaccinations, that number is down to 268 cases per week, one-tenth of what it was before we started vaccinating. And as a result, the number of COVID-19 patients in our hospitals has dropped dramatically. We have not just vaccinated our nursing home residents and then gone away. Rather, we're implementing an innovative Ohio program that ensures that new residents, new employees, and those who initially chose not to take the vaccine at all can now get vaccinated, and that will continue in the future in all of Ohio's 930 nursing homes. Science has shown us that those living with developmental and congenital disorders are also at increased risk of hospitalization and death from COVID. The coronavirus, for example, is 10 times deadlier for those living with Down syndrome. And so, Ohio has led the way in making vaccine available to these vulnerable individuals. So far, more than 15,000 Ohioans with developmental and congenital disorders have received vaccinations, and more are receiving them every single day. In addition, more than 91% of Ohioans with developmental disabilities who are living in our state's 8 developmental centers have also received their vaccines. All of this weaves into our Ohio story, our Ohio plan, and that plan is saving lives. My fellow Ohioans, victory is in sight. We have to keep in mind, though, that there is still a threat out there. Scientists tell us that the virus in Ohio is fast morphing into a more highly contagious virus. And no one really knows the full impact that this change might bring. The reality is that Ohioans continue to die each day from the virus. Each death is a tragedy. But there is something seemingly even more tragic and poignant about a death that occurs when the war is almost over and victory is close at hand. My dad, Dick DeWine, was a private in the Army, fought in Europe during World War II. He served in K Company, 103rd Infantry Division of the 7th Army. Dad told me about the final days of the war, and he shared one story that remained with him throughout his life. And this is taken from the official Company K history. I'll go a quote from it. The company was strafed by 2 German Me-109 fighter aircraft as they were pursuing our American P-47s. Sergeant Bruno Boczewski was mortally wounded. The men of the 3rd Platoon considered the loss of Boczewski as the toughest blow of the campaign, and they brooded for weeks over the cruel quirk of fate, which snuffed out the life of one who had come through the really tough days, going through those without so much as a scratch. Sergeant Boczewski was killed on April 27th, 1945. The war ended just 10 days later. The end of our fight is now in view, but we must continue pressing forward in these final days. We want all Ohioans to complete this vital mission together. Now, we must not relent, and in any struggle, when the end is in view, there's a natural human tendency to let up. When the job is almost done, we kind of pull back a little bit. Sometimes we take our foot off the gas. And I understand that. I get it. All of us are so sick of this virus. But you know, we must resist this urge, and we must fight to the very end. Now, I can't tell you exactly the day and the time when we can declare victory, but we will. be able to declare victory. I can't predict how this virus will act in the coming days. No one can. But what we do know is this: we're close. We're close. We also know what works. And we know what we need to do to get to the other side of this, to get things back to normal. Not only now do we have 3 highly effective vaccines, we also have one battle-tested tool that has proven to work so well, and that is the mask. Study after study has shown that masks work. In fact, we did our own study in schools and learned that even when kids were not 6 feet apart, even closer than 6 feet, and they were in a classroom together for a long time, as long as they were wearing a mask, the virus simply did not spread. Ohioans, you've been doing things right. And because of what Ohioans are doing, faithfully wearing masks in school, in business, and while shopping, we've made significant strides in getting our lives back to normal. The curfew has been lifted. We no longer have stay-at-home orders. Restaurants, bars, gyms are open. And we're looking forward. We're looking forward to a spring with graduations and proms and a summer of fairs and festivals, concerts, and baseball. Yes, we may start at 30% capacity for the Reds and the Indians and the minor league teams, but we anticipate that as more and more of us get vaccinated, these percentages will grow until we have full ballparks, full concert halls, full theaters, full capacity at so many other venues. Now let's talk for a moment about how we can measure that success, how we know when we're there. I'm often asked, Mike, when is this going to end? When can we lift the health orders? I've consulted Dr. van der Hoff, our Department of Health Medical Director, and a number of epidemiologists, as well as other health experts. And they tell me that now, with the vaccine, we can set realistic goals. And so tonight, I'm announcing that when Ohio gets down to 50 cases per 100,000 people for 2 weeks, all health orders in the state will come off. Now, cases per 100,000 people for a 2-week period is a standard measure, a measure that we've used since early in the pandemic. We show these numbers every week at our press conferences. Achieving this goal is very doable. We can do this, and I know we will. Now, let me put these numbers in a little context. On December 3rd, 2020, Ohio was at 731 cases per 100,000 population over the previous 2 weeks, 731. On February 3rd, 2020, 1 month ago, Ohio's cases were down to 445. And just yesterday, we were down to 179 cases. In 3 months, we've gone down 550 cases per 100,000 people. Over the last month alone, we've gone down 265 cases per 100,000. Ohio is on the right path to get us to 50. And this is thanks to the vaccine and thanks to your hard work and what you are doing every day to help mitigate the virus. Our path back is by continuing forward, by wearing that mask and by getting that vaccine. And while no one will be forced to take the vaccine, the more of us who can get vaccinated and the quicker we can get it done, the more complete will be our victory, the sooner will we have that victory, and the more confidently can we put this all behind us. Ohio, this is our path back. My friends, we are now in the last few miles of what has been a grueling marathon. We're tired. But no marathoner pulls out on purpose at the 25th mile marker. They know that they're almost to the finish line. And that is when the marathoner digs even deeper from within to marshal the will to go on to that finish line. In the words of Ohio State legend, Olympic hero Jesse Owens, and I quote, "That is the moment when we cannot give in to the pain. And instead of going to the limit, we must go past it, because that is where victory is always found." Ohio, we must run through the tape at the end of this race. We need to keep going. We need to finish the job. And we need to finish strong. My fellow Ohioans, we can do this. Thank you very much. May God bless all of you.
Okay, Governor Mike DeWine finishing comments that lasted about 15 minutes. And Betsy, there was a lot there, but obviously the major takeaway here, if there was going to be a headline, victory is in sight. And unlike Texas and Mississippi, we talked about this yesterday, Betsy, who just pretty much without citing science said that all restrictions are about to be eased in those two states. Governor DeWine lays out a very specific plan, and you heard him say he wants the cases per 100,000 to be 50 for 2 weeks, and that is very close. We're close to that now, around 175 per 100,000 right now. That is the finish line that so many of us have been looking for, and Betsy, we now know what it looks like, and we now know it is very much within our grasp.
Well, and Governor DeWine, you know, kind of making the reference that this is much like a marathon. We're in the 25th mile. They kind of wrapped up on that. Keep in mind, it was 1 year ago today, the first full-on press conference regarding the coronavirus was laid out in front of the state of Ohio. You could think back to late March, April, May, every single day we brought you those press conferences. The news kept getting more and more grim. Now we definitely have turned a corner, and the news is definitely improving as well. And I don't know about you, Jay, but I always seem to migrate my eyes over to Marla Berkowitz, who of course is Governor DeWine's sign interpreter. And her energy throughout this entire pandemic has been notable. It's something that a lot of folks have gravitated to. But, you know, watching her and the way she's emoting what he is saying, that has changed along with this pandemic as well. And today, if you watched, you could see she had tons of energy. There was a lot that she was conveying through her motions and through the sign language that she was showing and that interpretation that she was doing. And I think that's something that a lot of folks can take away without even hearing what was saying. But you kind of get that jump in your blood, right? You know that it's good news.
Some of the other points that we want to stress, again, the governor saying that fairs, festivals, weddings, graduations are all very much in our future. Again, if you're just joining us, the governor wants to see for a period of 2 weeks, 50 cases per 100,000. At our worst, Betsy, we were at 731 cases per 100,000. We're down more than 4 times that number now at around 175 per 100,000. Still work to be done. And I love this quote, and it's worth repeating. The governor quoting the late, great Jesse Owens, the Olympic hero, by saying, now is the moment that we cannot give in to pain. And I love this. He said, we must go past the pain. It's there where victory is found. We're close. We'll have much more on the governor's comments coming up at the top of the hour, 6 o'clock. But again, Betsy, I don't think anything but positive news coming from the governor today.
We are in offense mode. That's what he told us. So we're turning the corner. The vaccines continue to roll out. We'll have more on what the governor presented to us today, of course. But we're also going to get an update on what's happening with this forecast. Starting to see some sun peeking out there. Matt Standers is in with the latest next.
been a daily tradition for us here for about the last 2 weeks. We're counting down your days to spring, and there are 16 to go. I had a viewer email me yesterday and say, why is that a squirrel on Betsy's shoulder and not a groundhog?
Oh,
That's what he
true.
said. That's what he said.
They're going for the shade. Don't throw me that shade.
Betsy doesn't like groundhogs.
I'm not a fan at all. I don't think any meteorologist is really a fan of the groundhogs, although we kind of get the whole thing anyway. But Matt Standridge, I tell you what, the crepuscular rays out there on that CSU cam, certainly nice to see.
That's going to be beautiful this evening. I mean, sunset's here in, what is that, about 30 minutes or so? Yeah. So it's really pretty out there across Northeast Ohio. Speaking of spring, we're kind of on that trend. There's something called the USA National Phenology Network. They track where the first leaves are starting to bud, the first flowers are starting to bloom. Of course, it depends on species and temperatures, but I want to show you that map. This is the latest from the network. You see that green color? That shows you where a lot of places are starting to get a little bit more widespread. You know, it just looks more like spring when you start to get some of those flowers starting to bloom a little bit more. The green color is still about 300 miles south of Ohio. So over time, as we get more daylight and more warmth, we'll also have those signs of spring starting to move northbound. Right now, it feels more like winter. We have temperatures sitting in the 20s. I mean, we've had a little bit of light snow throughout the day. We still have a heavier band over Summit County from Akron and the Cuyahoga Falls area. So we're still tracking that. But over time, those snow showers will start to wind down. And then you saw the breaks in the clouds there on the CSU cam. More sunshine's on the way. Temperatures are cool this evening. It feels like the teens, even though the temperature actually is in the 20s. Overnight, we'll probably be cooling down into the low 20s overall. You see that dip. But we'll have clear skies overnight. I think by the time you're waking up tomorrow morning, we'll have the sunshine back. We're just going to be staying in kind of a cooler pattern the next couple of days. So keep that in mind. That will last through the weekend. So tomorrow we'll have the sun. It'll feel nice when you're standing in the sun. It won't feel nice when you're in that window. Those winds between 10 to 15 miles per hour, just enough to keep those wind chills mainly in the teens for most of your Friday. Here's your National Zymar hour-by-hour forecast. Tonight, the clouds that we had throughout all day today will start to break up. We'll have maybe a stray cloud tomorrow, but overall, the forecast looks a lot sunnier as we try to warm up a little bit, but we'll be fighting that northwest wind all day long. And that's kind of the story for the weekend, too. We'll probably stay mainly in the 30s this weekend, but at least we'll have the sunshine. Then a big turnaround starts on Monday. Jay, back into the 50s, 60s, also on the horizon. Big wind shift. Right now, we're out of the northwest. That'll stay here for tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. But by Monday, just a shift in the wind to a southwesterly breeze will help us warm. You know, it's about 20, 25 degrees warmer than we are sitting today. So warmer air is on the way, Jay. We just got to wait till next week from Union Home Mortgage 7-Day Outlook.
Well, that's okay, Matt. We will wait. In the month of March, we always welcome a southerly breeze. That looks good, particularly next week. All right, coming up, some penguins got out and about this week to visit a popular exhibit outside of their own habitat. More on this. It's coming up. It's our Show Us Something Good.
Yeah, I still got you here, buddy.
Hey, mic check. 1, 2, 3. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Is it Al? Hey, how are ya? Sorry I'm late. Thanks, David.
Well, it is always good when an animal living outside their natural habitat gets to go out once in a while. And today's Show Us Something Good comes with a group of penguin friends from an aquarium in Chicago. They waddled, and did you know a group of penguins on land is called a waddle? Well, they waddled through the Friends TV show experience, checking out all the nostalgia from Monica's apartment, the iconic couch in the coffee shop, even saw Joey's buddy Hugsy, the penguin, of course. Jay, do you know what a group of penguins in the water is called?
I don't.
Useless trivia for 200, Alex. It's called a raft.
All right, now I know. Yep. I didn't know they were called waddle on the ground.
A group of penguins on land is a waddle.
It makes sense.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us and watching What's New.
I'm in for Russ tonight on What Matters Most. It starts next. Laura joins me. We'll see you then.
1 year later,
my fellow Ohioans, victory is in sight.
Governor DeWine details what's next in our fight against COVID-19. The search for vaccine.
Why is Ohio moving down the list when there's nothing available? It doesn't make any sense.
The frustration is real for those trying to sign up for a COVID vaccine. Where the state stands as Phase 1C begins. Looking for answers.
That Arthur was scared. That Arthur was moving away. Arthur was not a threat to that officer.
The